On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Estelle Getty, beloved for her role as the sharp-tongued Sophia Petrillo on The Golden Girls, passed away on July 22, 2008, at the age of 84. Her death was the result of natural causes, following a long battle with Lewy body dementia, a progressive neurological disease that slowly eroded her memory and cognitive abilities. For a woman so deeply associated with wit, timing, and clarity of character, her illness was especially poignant. In a way, her decline mirrored the quiet but unrelenting reality faced by many aging stars whose final years unfold away from the spotlight they once commanded. Getty's passing came during a time when society was becoming more openly concerned with aging, memory loss, and the dignity of the elderly. Her death served as a reminder of the fragility behind fame and brought renewed attention to diseases that steal identity and independence. Though her exit from the public eye was gradual, the announcement of her death sent a wave of nostalgia and sadness across generations of fans who had come to see her not just as a TV character, but as a grandmotherly figure in their own lives. The immediate aftermath of Getty's death saw a surge in tributes, reruns, and memorials. Her co-stars publicly mourned her, and fans worldwide celebrated her legacy by revisiting her most iconic scenes. In death, she became even more cherished. Her quick wit and timeless charm frozen in syndication, her character living on in memes and quotes that continue to circulate years later. Estelle Getty's legacy is immortalized not only in television history, but in how her portrayal of Sophia Petrillo redefined what it meant to be an older woman on screen. Her character was bold, hilarious, and never marginalized, a reflection of shifting cultural values toward elder empowerment and visibility. Through art and performance, she carved a place that transcended her own mortality. Ultimately, Getty's death reminds us that even figures who brought laughter to millions are not immune to the slow fade of time. Yet through the screen, through reruns and digital tributes, Estelle Getty remains very much alive in memory. Her life and passing illustrate humanity's deep desire to honor those who once made us feel seen, understood, and entertained, even as we confront the inevitability of their absence. John Dillinger, America's most infamous bank robber of the Great Depression era, met a violent end on July 22, 1934, in a dark Chicago alley outside the Biograph Theater. Betrayed by Anna Sage, the woman in red, an informant seeking deportation leniency, Dillinger was gunned down by FBI agents in a dramatic ambush. He died instantly from multiple gunshot wounds, his body left sprawled on the pavement as a crowd gathered in shock. The scene was emblematic of the volatile intersection of crime, celebrity, and justice in 1930s America. Dillinger's death came during a time of widespread economic despair and public disillusionment. Banks, seen as symbols of oppression during the Great Depression, made Dillinger, a charismatic outlaw, appear to some as a modern-day Robin Hood. His violent crimes, though undeniable, were often glamorized by the press. This duality, a man both feared and admired, reflected a nation torn between lawlessness and desperation. His downfall was engineered by J. Edgar Hoover's newly empowered FBI, eager to prove its effectiveness and legitimacy to the American people. Dillinger, declared public enemy number one, became the first true test case of federal crime fighting in a rapidly modernizing nation. The immediate consequences of Dillinger's death were swift and sensational. Newspapers splashed graphic images of his corpse across front pages. Souvenir seekers dipped handkerchiefs in his blood, and thousands flocked to his funeral. His death bolstered the FBI's reputation, ushering in an era of centralized federal law enforcement and surveillance. For Hoover, it was a public victory. For the public, a mix of closure and myth-making. Dillinger's legacy has since been immortalized in countless books, songs, and films, from 1940s noir to Michael Mann's Public Enemies, 2009. His life and death continue to evoke fascination, not just for their drama, but for what they say about America's love affair with rebellion, justice, and spectacle. In a country that often lionizes the defiant individual, Dillinger remains a complex icon, a man who challenged authority and paid the ultimate price. His story reveals humanity's persistent desire to define heroes and villains in shades of gray. Through memory and media, we preserve such figures not for moral clarity, but for their ability to reflect our ongoing struggle with power, identity, and mortality itself. Abdul Duke Fakir, the last surviving original member of the legendary Motown group The Four Tops, passed away on June 21, 2024, at the age of 88. His death was due to natural causes, marking the quiet end of an era that had once pulsed with the rhythm and soul of 1960s America. As the final voice of one of Motown's most enduring vocal harmony groups, Fakir's passing was not only a personal loss to fans, but a symbolic closing chapter to a golden age of music that once helped shape cultural identity, unity, and resistance. The Four Tops rose to fame during a time of profound social upheaval, when America was grappling with the civil rights movement, racial segregation, and generational change. Their music, with hits like Reach Out, I'll Be There and Baby, I Need Your Loving, transcended barriers and brought black artistry into the homes of mainstream America. Fakir's smooth tenor voice and enduring presence helped carry that message of hope, love, and resilience for decades. Fakir's death came at a moment when society continues to wrestle with race, nostalgia, and the power of collective memory. While his passing was peaceful, the legacy he left behind is deeply entwined with struggles far greater than music. His life reflected a generation of artists who used their voices not just to entertain, but to heal and inspire during turbulent times. His death prompted tributes from musicians, historians, and fans worldwide, each recognizing his unique contribution to a sound that bridged divides and celebrated shared humanity. Though not as explosively headline-grabbing as the deaths of political leaders or activists, Fakir's passing represents a quieter kind of historical shift, the fading of cultural architects who shaped a nation's emotional and artistic soul. His story continues in concert halls, vinyl records, documentaries, and tributes that immortalize his harmony not only in sound, but in spirit. Abdul Fakir's life and death remind us that power does not always roar. Sometimes it sings. Through the arts, we preserve such legacies, ensuring that memory outlives mortality. Fakir's music, like that of so many cultural pioneers, continues to echo across generations, a testament to the enduring human desire to connect, remember, and feel. Linda Christian, often dubbed the first Bond girl for her role in the 1954 television adaptation of Casino Royale, passed away from colon cancer on July 22, 2011, at the age of 87. Her death was the quiet end of a life that once shimmered on the international stage, wrapped in Hollywood glamour, romance, and reinvention. Though her passing was due to natural causes, it marked the fading of a particular cinematic elegance and the complex intersection of beauty, fame, and transatlantic identity in the mid-20th century. Born Blanca Rosa Welter in Mexico, Christian rose to fame in the 1940s and 50s, a time when Hollywood was both a dream factory and a vehicle of global soft power. With her exotic looks, multilingual fluency, and graceful poise, she embodied the era's ideal of the glamorous, international screen siren. Her roles may not have defined cinema history, but her image, fashionable, alluring, and mysterious, captured the spirit of a time when stardom was curated with care and personal reinvention was both survival and spectacle. Christian's personal life was often as famous as her career. Her marriage to matinee idol Tyrone Power was closely followed by the press, blending her stardom with his in a whirlwind of red carpets and public scrutiny. After his early death, she was often seen as a tragic beauty, a woman both touched and haunted by Hollywood's intense spotlight. In this sense, her death reflected not just the passage of time, but the end of a chapter in which film stars were larger-than-life figures cloaked in mystery before the digital age unraveled that illusion. The immediate response to her passing was respectful but subdued, with many remembering her as a symbol of a bygone Hollywood. Yet over time, her place in pop culture, especially as the first actress to portray a Bond girl, secured her a form of cinematic immortality. Her performances, fashion, and high-profile love affairs continue to surface in retrospectives, coffee table books, and documentaries exploring classic film eras. Linda Christian's legacy illustrates how memory, more than achievement alone, sustains fame. Through film, photography, and biography, she lives on not just as an actress, but as a figure carved into the mythology of Hollywood's golden age. Her death, like many before her, reminds us that beauty fades, but story endures, and through storytelling, we keep the past alive. Dennis Farina, the Chicago-born actor known for his tough guy roles and unmistakable mustache, died on July 22, 2013 at the age of 69 from a pulmonary embolism. His sudden passing, due to a blood clot in the lung, was a stark contrast to the controlled and charismatic enforcers he portrayed on screen. It also underscored a reality of the entertainment world. Behind the gritty bravado of many Hollywood icons lies a deeply human vulnerability. Before his acting career, Farina served as a Chicago police officer for nearly 2 decades. This real-life experience gave his performances, particularly in roles as cops, criminals, and detectives, an authentic edge that resonated with audiences. Rising to fame later in life, Farina embodied a working-class resilience that appealed to a generation who valued grit over glamour. His breakthrough in Crime Story and memorable roles in Get Shorty, Snatch, and Law and Order built a persona rooted in the hard truths of justice, loyalty, and survival. Farina's death came at a time when television and film were shifting into a new era of complex anti-heroes and moral ambiguity. He represented an earlier archetype, the charming tough guy with a strict code and a sharp wit. His passing not only saddened fans but reminded the industry of the disappearing line between performer and lived experience. Farina didn't just play lawmen, he had been one, and that authenticity was increasingly rare in an industry leaning toward stylized fiction over grounded truth. The immediate response to his death was heartfelt. Tributes poured in from co-stars, directors, and fans who praised his generous spirit, professionalism, and the gravitas he brought to every role. His unique position as a real-life cop-turned-actor added layers to his legacy, framing him as both storyteller and subject of the American urban narrative. Dennis Farina's death prompts reflection on how we remember those who embody an era, a type, or a spirit. In him, audiences saw a bridge between reality and fiction, blue-collar life and cinematic myth. Through film and television, his memory endures, not just as a character actor, but as a man who brought truth to fiction. His story speaks to humanity's need to find meaning in loss, and to celebrate those who lived with authenticity, power, and purpose. Art Neville, the legendary New Orleans musician and co-founder of the Meters and the Neville Brothers, died of natural causes on July 22, 2019, at the age of 81. His death marked the end of an era for funk, soul, and the uniquely rich musical tapestry of New Orleans. As a cultural icon whose career spanned more than 6 decades, Neville's passing was not just the loss of a performer, but the quiet silencing of a rhythm that once defined a city's heartbeat. Neville's life was deeply tied to the story of New Orleans itself, a city of resilience, reinvention, and rhythm. His music, whether through the syncopated grooves of the meters or the deeply personal harmonies of the Neville brothers, reflected the soul of a people who transformed struggle into art. In an America grappling with civil rights battles, urban unrest, and cultural shifts, Neville's sound offered both comfort and defiance. His music transcended genre and race, speaking directly to the universal human desire for connection, expression, and joy. The immediate consequences of Neville's death rippled through the music world. Tributes came from every corner, fellow musicians, fans, and local leaders honoring not just his talent, but his cultural significance. In New Orleans, a city that mourns through music, second-line parades and memorial performances captured the duality of grief and celebration that so often defines how we process the loss of great artists. Art Neville's passing also forced reflection on the fragile lineage of oral and musical traditions. In an era increasingly dominated by digital soundscapes and algorithm-driven hits, his death served as a reminder of a time when music was deeply rooted in place, community, and lived experience. His legend was not amplified through spectacle, but through consistent authenticity and artistry, a contrast to the fleeting nature of modern fame. Neville's legacy is preserved through his recordings, live performances, and the countless artists he influenced. His story echoes through jazz clubs, Mardi Gras parades, and vinyl records spinning in quiet corners of the world. In commemorating figures like Art Neville, we affirm a truth about mortality and memory, that some lives, through creative expression, outlast their earthly limits. We immortalize them not only in art, but in the cultural rhythms they helped shape, rhythms that keep playing even after the final note fades. Tamara Danz, the electrifying voice of the East German rock band Silly, died on July 22, 1996, at the age of 43, after a fierce battle with breast cancer. Her untimely death was both tragic and symbolic, a powerful reflection of the social and political transformations that defined the final decades of the 20th century in Germany. Danz was not just a musician, she was a cultural icon who gave voice to a generation struggling with identity, censorship, and change during and after the Cold War. As the lead singer of Silly, Danz rose to fame in East Germany, GDR, where rock music was often closely monitored by state authorities. Yet, she managed to navigate this system, using poetic lyrics and metaphor to criticize and question the status quo without triggering outright censorship. In a time when artistic freedom was severely constrained, her creativity and defiance made her a symbol of subtle rebellion and resilience. Her voice, both literal and metaphorical, resonated with East German youth who longed for authenticity amid state propaganda. Her death came just a few years after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the reunification of Germany, a time marked by cultural redefinition and societal disorientation. The East was struggling to preserve its cultural identity in the face of rapid westernization. Tamara Danz's passing struck a deep chord, especially among those who had grown up with her music as a lifeline in a repressive regime. In many ways, her death symbolized the loss of a unique artistic spirit tied to a world that had vanished almost overnight. The aftermath of her death was marked by national mourning and a surge of interest in her music. Memorial concerts and tributes followed, and her legacy was woven into the fabric of Germany's cultural memory. A Berlin street was renamed in her honor, and her contributions to music and freedom of expression are still recognized today. Tamara Danza's life and death remind us that music is more than entertainment. It is resistance, remembrance, and identity. Her story highlights how individuals become symbols, not because they seek power, but because they reflect the soul of a moment in history. We immortalize such figures through song, monument, and memory, ensuring that their courage continues to echo long after their final performance. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, passed away today at the age of 76, reportedly from natural causes after a long and public battle with various health conditions, including Parkinson's disease and spinal injuries. His death, while not sudden, feels seismic to millions who saw him as a symbol of rebellion, resilience, and reinvention. Known both for his wild antics as the frontman of Black Sabbath and later as a solo artist and reality TV icon, Osbourne's life was a high-voltage mix of self-destruction and survival. His death comes in a time when society continues to wrestle with mental health, addiction, and the legacies of countercultural movements. In many ways, Ozzy embodied the contradictions of his era. The 1970s and 1980s were decades of excess, experimentation, and escapism. He survived an overdose, brushes with death, public backlash, and his own personal demons, offering a twisted kind of inspiration. In an age that often celebrated invincibility, Ozzy's vulnerability made him oddly relatable. The immediate reaction to his passing is a global outpouring of grief and reverence. Tributes pour in from rock legends, younger musicians, and fans across generations. Social media floods with images of his iconic bat-biting performance, his signature wobble across the stage, and his heartfelt, if sometimes unintelligible, interviews. For many, his death marks the end of an era, not just of metal music, but of a raw, unfiltered authenticity rarely seen in today's curated celebrity world. In death, Ozzy's legend will only grow. His image, shrouded in leather and eyeliner, fists raised against conformity, becomes a permanent archetype of rock and roll rebellion. He will live on not only through his music, but also in pop culture's endless reinterpretation of the antihero. Like Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, or Johnny Cash, Ozzy Osbourne enters the mythos of those who challenged norms and paid the price in blood, sweat, and song. Ultimately, his passing reminds us how society both fears and glorifies mortality. Through statues, documentaries, murals, and tribute concerts, we immortalize those who dared to live differently. Ozzy Osbourne, in life and now in death, reflects humanity's paradoxical desire for both chaos and catharsis, and our deep yearning to remember those who made noise in a world that often demands silence.